Welcome to the Wind Up with Will. I'm your host, Will. Welcome back, everyone. It has been a while since I've done one of these videos. I'm hoping to make this more of a regular thing. Um, I like talking about sports, and so this is what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about my MLB predictions and how horribly wrong they have gone. So to start out with, sorry, I'm shaking the camera. To start out with, I'm going to go over my predictions that I had at the beginning of the season and how horrible they have went. There's a few surprises that I've gotten right, but outside of those few, I've done very poorly. So my predictions to begin the season, I'm going to go through each league and go through my MVP winners and Cy Youngs, and then I'm going to go through my current predictions for what the rest of the season is going to hold for those same things. So my predictions to start the season, I had my New York Mets winning the National League East. Now, well, I'll go through all my predictions before I give my thoughts. And as you may know, the Mets are doing about as good as a dumpster on fire right now. It's pretty poor. In the West, I picked the Dodgers to win. The Central, I picked the Cardinals. The wild card, I had the Padres as the one wild card, the Phillies as the two, and the Braves as the three. In the American League, I had the Astros winning the West and being the number one seed, and I'm also going from like 1 to 6 and in the seeding. I had the Astros winning the AL West, the Blue Jays winning the AL East. I had the White Sox surprisingly winning the Central. That somehow is worse than me picking the Mets to win the East. That's pretty bad. Um, the wild card one, I had the Yankees. The wild card two, I had the Rays, and sneaking in as the wild card three, I had the Angels. And in the playoffs, I had the Bray. Well, that's a lot to go through, so I won't go through. I'll just go through my World Series. I had my Mets beating the Astros 4-3. That seems like a pipe dream right now. Like that's probably not happening. Uh, my season awards, my National League MVP, I had Manny Machado. He was runner up last year, so I thought this year he would have another strong season. The Padres would maybe be better, and that would get him the award. It's not really turned out like that. He's having an okay season, and the Padres are having kind of a disappointing season. So I don't really see him winning that. My Cy Young had Sandy Alcantara repeating, channeling his inner Jacob DeGrom, going back to back with the Cy Youngs. I don't see that happening either. He missed some of the early season. He's not pitched as well this year, so I don't see that one coming true either. My rookie of the year, I had Kodai Senga with the Mets. He's been one of the Mets' best pitchers this year, so this pick wasn't surprisingly that off. I guess not surprising. The Mets thought he would be good. They gave him a lot of money. He's been a good pitcher so far, probably the Mets' best pitcher so far. He's not ace material on. I guess he's the ace for the Mets. I guess you'd say at this point. Max Scherzer's kind of coming in for him, but um, on a lot of and on some other weaker teams, he might be considered like the ace. But on this team, you would figure he would be like the three, and he's been a good pitcher. He's been a good pitcher, and I think he's in the rookie of the year mix. I don't think he'll win it though in the National League. Sorry, I'm getting kind of in the weeds on some of the Mets issues. Um, Kodai Senga, I think he's a good pitcher. I don't think. I mean, things could change. He's definitely in the mix for rookie of the year. I don't have him win. As of right now, I don't have him winning it, even though he's my preseason pick. My manager of the year, I had Rob Thompson with the Phillies. A lot of people said he got robbed last year of it with a terrific job he took over as interim manager and taking the Phillies all over the world, all the way to the World Series and having a good shot of winning it. Um, so I picked him to win it this year because I figured the Phillies are going to be back in the mix, make the playoffs. The Mets will be back in the playoffs. Buck Showalter's not going to win it again. They're not going to give it to Brian Snitker with the Braves again. They're probably going to give it to the Phillies and the guy who's helped them get to the playoffs the last 2 years, Rob Thompson. And right now the Phillies are kind of on the verge of the playoffs. So it's possible he could win it. But that pick I don't think is as strong as it was preseason for me. My comeback player of the year was Cody Bellinger. I figured a new team with the Cubs would give him a fresh start, allow him to be better, and maybe get some of what's going on up in here inside his head out, where he was this MVP candidate for the Dodgers, and then he just completely fell off a cliff into non-existence. Where if you asked a random fan on the street who's Cody Bellinger and they weren't a baseball fan, they'd probably be like, who? And you have to be like, the guy that always looks like he's high. Oh yeah, that guy. Yeah. I thought he would maybe return to form, maybe have a shot on All Star this year. He's actually played fairly well. So not a horrible pick by me, but there's probably some better players that are going to be in the mix for that. So I mean, he could still win it. I just think there's maybe a few other ones that are probably going to get some votes, more votes than him. Definitely in the mix though. He's having a good year for how he's played the last few years. He's batting like 250, has 7 home runs, so it's not a horrible pick by me. Um, in the AL for the MVP, I had Shohei Ohtani. I mean, it's hard not to go with him. The last 2 years, he's been by far the best player in baseball. The only reason he didn't win the MVP last year is because Aaron Judge set the home run record at 62 in the American League, but not only baseball. Like if you're a true baseball fan, he's the true home run champion. So it's hard not to give the MVP to that guy. Even though Shohei Ohtani was a great outing, any other year Shohei's winning that MVP last year. He won it 2 years ago. I think he's going to win it again this year. He was even in kind of the mix for the Cy Young a bit last year. He got some Cy Young votes. Um, I think it was a good pick by me. He very obviously the front runner right now in the American League. My Cy Young, I had Shane Bieber. I think I've picked him like the last 2 or 3 years in a row to win the Cy Young after he won it in 2020. So I guess some lessons are learned hard. I mean, he's not winning it this year. My rookie of the year in the American League, I had Masataka Yoshida with the Boston Red Sox. After his performance in the World Baseball Classic, I thought this guy coming over was going to be a pretty good hitter and pretty spot on the nose pick by me. That is probably my best pick out of anything out of any of my preseason picks. Like right on the nose. Like I was like, this guy's a winning rookie of the year. I don't care what they say about the Yankees shortstop coming up, Anthony or whatever his name is, Volpe, whatever his name was. Masataka Yoshida, that Japanese star, he's winning rookie of the year. He's gonna channel and win MVP like uh, Ichiro Suzuki. He's gonna win a batting title, lead and still no, of course he's not. But I had him as rookie of the year candidate. Great player in the World Baseball Classic, and he's been a great player in MLB. He's been phenomenal. Like I drafted him in fantasy because I was like I'm betting it all on this guy. He's been phenomenal. My team in fantasy has been horrible, but he's been like the one thing I've gotten right the entire baseball season. The one like main thing. Manager of the year, I'd Phil Nevin in the American League. The manager with the Angels. I feared them sneaking into the playoffs at the end. Um, he would probably win it. And if they make it, he still might. There's with how crazy MLB's been this year and the different teams in the playoff positions. I think manager of the year is like one of the most open things anyone can win. Comeback player of the year, I had Jacob DeGrom. Again, I'm a huge Jacob DeGrom fan, so I just figured he would be in the mix to win it, and maybe he can get some Cy Young votes. I didn't see him winning the Cy Young or really even finishing top three, but I figured he would at least have a year in which he started like 28, 29 games, and had an ERA under 3, far better than pitching in like 8 games last year or however many games he pitched last year. So I figured that he would win comeback player of the year for something like that, at least be in the mix, but unfortunately, my hero Jacob DeGrom is out with the season, Tommy John surgery. When he did pitch, he was pitching well. He just he couldn't stay healthy, and I fear that that's what's going to plague him for the rest of his career. Uh, and he's going to be like one of the greatest what ifs in baseball history because the guy's absolutely phenomenal. Watching him pitch in 2018 and 2019 is some of the most fun baseball I've watched, even though it was frustrating that the Mets found ways to lose games in which he pitched, where he gave up like 1 run. but phenomenal pitcher. In my lifetime, I would say he's top five. But unfortunately, I think injuries are going to hold him back a little bit. Uh, Hopefully, he can win it. Well, he probably won't be pitching next year. He'll probably miss most of next year as well. So hopefully, 2 years from now, he can win Comeback Player of the Year and get back on that track of Hall of Fame hopes. Hopefully. So you can see, some of my picks here have been kind of poorly, and my World Series pick, the Mets beating the Astros, is um, like insane asylum kind of pick. Like, I'm just kind of surprised they've not locked me up at this point. It's like that SpongeBob meme. It's like the Mets are gonna win the World Series. How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man? Like it's like that. Like I never learn. I never learn. I always pick the Mets. I'm just too much of a diehard. I'm gonna have to learn one of these days that they cannot win it every year, especially when they didn't win it in the last 30 plus years, like 36 years at this point. Yeah, going on 37 years now. Anyways, this video has gone on for a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead to my current MLB predictions for how the rest of the season is going to go. So in the National League, unfortunately, the team that's going to win the East and be the number one seed, can't believe I'm saying this, is the Atlanta Braves. Um, they just find a way to win. They're like as much as I do not like the Braves, they're a Class A organization. They run the team well, they draft well, they develop players well, they have good coaches. They have a large fan base that and they've got a brand new stadium. Well, it's I think 5 or 6 years old at this point. But they always have great crowds there. They're tough to beat. They find ways to win, and they find ways to fill holes in their team with guys that no one else want, or that no one else draft or pick up, and they find a way to make it work. Where like if, for example, we on Father's Day we went and watched the Braves. My family's Braves fans. Bottom of the Braves lineup raked. The top of their lineup was horrible. The bottom of the lineup raked. Eddie Rosario looked like Babe Ruth. Like, and it's every game. Someone for them. They have a different hero every game. And when you have a team like that that performs like that, it's hard to beat them, and it's hard to pick against them. They're a good team, a really solid team, and what I thought would be their weakness this year, the starting pitching, has actually performed well, even with injuries, even with Spencer Strider, the guy that a lot of people thought should win Rookie of the Year last year. Phenomenal pitcher. He's not had, outside of strikeouts, he's not had a great year. His ERA was around 4. I think he's got it like 3.7 now or something. Um, he's still a really good pitcher, obviously, but like he's not performed well. Max Fried's been injured. Mike Soroka's been out. Bryce Elder could be the Cy Young winner for the Braves, and rookie. So like, I don't know how they find these guys though. They just do. Uh, but I have them as the one seed in the National League. They just perform very well. I think the one issue is maybe their bullpen. Like I don't know how steady their bullpen is, and in some of those young starting pitchers, how they're going to perform in the postseason after the long endurance of regular season. How they're going to hold up the postseason. That's maybe the one holdup with them. But phenomenal team, they're going to be hard to beat. My second seed in the National League, I'm going with the Arizona Diamondbacks. They've kind of I didn't want to jump on like the bandwagon in the preseason where everyone was picking them to be like a wild card team. Some people were picking them to win the West. I just didn't see it, and I was wrong. And I thought if they were good, Madison Bumgarner would be part of it. But no, they released him. They're finding ways to win, and the star on this team is Corbin Carroll, the rookie. Some people have him as an MVP candidate, even as a rookie. Sorry. Um, he's been phenomenal. He's been the heart and soul of this team, and him and their star lineup with like Ketel Marte, Christian Walker. They have guys that can hit drive-in runs when they need to, and they've got some decent pitching led by Morel Kelly. So they're a good team, and they've just found ways to win and perform. And especially with the change in schedule this year, where you're not playing 18 or 19 games against your division opponents, they don't have to play the Dodgers 18 games this year, or the Giants, or the Padres. They only play them like 13 games. So they're not, that's 6 games in which they don't have to play the Dodgers. That's a win for them. That's 6 games that they could perhaps gain on the Dodgers by beating up on the Royals or whoever that's thrown in their schedule to make it up because everyone has to play everyone this year. Um, the Central Division, I have the Brewers winning it. I know the Reds are currently leading that division, but they're just coming off a really hot streak. It'd be interesting to see how they perform the rest of the season. They're a very young team. The last few years they've been fairly bad, and that's a mild way of putting it. Um, they're I think it's interesting. I like to see them succeed. Ella De La Cruz, I think that's how you pronounce his name. He's a phenomenal guy. He might be a Rookie of the Year candidate, especially if he came up earlier. He might win it. Um, he might have some hard time catching Corbin Carroll though. I just think they're too inexperienced of a team, too young to ride the hardships of what's still a long season. We're not even halfway into the season. We're like 78 games in. Still got a few more games until midway of the season. I don't know if the Reds have what it takes. They were under 500 and just had an amazing hot streak to get into first. They won like 12 games in a row. I don't think that they necessarily have what it takes to ride out the rest of the season in leading the division. Could they sneak in? Yeah. Could they still win the division? Yeah, of course. Crazier things have happened. It's just I don't know. They feel a little young, and the Brewers are in that division. The Brewers have amazing pitching. The Brewers are experienced. They've gone to the playoffs in I think 5 straight years. Let's see. Yeah, I think five. Yeah, 5 straight years. Um, the Brewers are a more experienced team. They have better pitching. Now, I would say the Reds probably have the better lineup, but if your pitching's on, it can be hard to lose. So I'm going to go with the Brewers. I just think they're a little more experienced, especially in playoff situations and down the stretch when it's going to get a little tight. I feel like they're going to be able to perform a little better than maybe the young and inexperienced Reds. My wild card teams in the National League, I have the Marlins as the one wild card. Amazing story. The Marlins have just been horrible. They've been horrible, horrible, horrible. It's almost like Charles Barkley said, terrible. TURBL, terrible, terrible, terrible. Like that's how the Marlins have been. And they made a trade in the offseason where everyone was just kind of like, what? They traded away Pablo Lopez, great pitcher for them. They traded him to the Twins and get Luis Ariz. Um, and when it happened, I was like, yeah, that trade makes sense. They get a hitter for their pitching. Pitching's the Marlins' strength. They need a hitter. They got it. The Twins need pitching. They got it out of Pablo Lopez. I think it's a win-win trade. And now might look a little bit more slanted this year towards the Marlins, as Luis Ariz has been batting 400 most of the year. For my viewers who don't follow baseball, so batting 400 in baseball might be equivalent to having like a field goal percentage of like 70 in NBA or something like that. I guess that's maybe a rough equivalent. I don't know. Like it's insane. Like it is so rare that the last time it happened was I think slightly after World War II. It was around World War. Ted Williams was the last person to bat 400, and he played in and around World War II. He actually took a break from his career to go serve in World War II at the height of his career. So it's been a while since anyone has batted 400 in Major League Baseball. The closest, you've had a few guys bat around 390 a few times, like Tony Gwynn in the 94 shortened season. George Brett back in the 80s. I don't remember exactly what year he batted. I think like 392 or something. I think he was like 3 or 4 hits short of batting 400. So it's pretty rare, and he's been doing it most of the year. Like it's insane. He might be MVP candidate. He definitely deserves to be in the con. If he's not, if someone does not have him on their MVP list, it would be like having not having Jokic on their NBA and MVP list. That's I guess the equivalent. Like it's just insane. So and Pablo Lopez has been okay for the Twins, but he's not been quite what they expected. But amazing trade for the Marlins, and it's obviously put them in a playoff spot. I mean, they're contending for the wild card right now in the National League. Wild card two, I have the Dodgers. I think they're just too experienced of a team. They have too many veterans on this team. Experienced manager. They're just a good team. They're going to go out and trade at the trade deadline and add a piece or two that's going to put them in a position and make the playoffs. There's no way this team is going to be sellers at the deadline. They're going to be buying players. They're going to be making the playoffs. There's no way Magic Johnson is letting this team miss the playoffs. If you didn't know, he's the owner. There's no way he's letting them miss the playoffs. My wild card three, I have the Phillies. Right now, I think they're half a game out of the wild card. They've had some ups and downs this year. Trey Turner, what is supposed to be their star shortstop, has not performed very well during the season. Yeah, he's hit a little better here recently. His on base percentage, I think, is still under 300, and it's insane. The guy that looked like he was going to be player of the tournament in the World Baseball Classic if Team USA won has not performed like that at all in the MLB season this year. I think at one point he had quite a bit into the year, he had more home runs in the World Baseball Classic than he uh, does in MLB. Let me actually go pull up his stats real quick because I want to see uh, how different that they are, like how off it is from what his World Baseball Classic statistics are. Hold on a second. Um, Here we go. Oh, MLB app is not wanting to work for me, so we're just gonna have to figure out. We're gonna have to look him up in ESPN app. Here we go. He has 8 home runs. He had 5 home runs in the World Baseball Classic, a total of 7 games. 7 games in the World Baseball Classic, he had 5 home runs. In 76 games played this year, he has 8. He's not performed well in MLB. His batting average is 248. He's not performed well. The Phillies, Bryce Harper was out quite a bit of the year. Rhys Hoskins got injured. I think Rhys Hoskins actually got injured right before I made I guess my preseason prediction video was like a week into the season or whatnot. Rhys Hoskins got injured in like late spring training, tore his ACL. So he's been out. Bryce Harper's missed some time. Trey Turner's not performed well. Their pitching is okay. They've had some injuries in their bullpen. Jose Alvarado is their closer went out, but Craig Kimbrell has kind of stepped in and taken that role now. I think they're good enough to be a wild card team, be in contention. They're like half a game out. I don't. The Giants are in the wild card position right now. I don't see any way the Giants make the playoffs. I don't. I think they're too old of a team. They're not that they don't have good players. Well, what I shouldn't say that. They have okay players. They're a team made up of a bunch of guys who would be good role players on other teams. Good guys that could bat sixth, seventh, eighth on other teams. Even fifth, you might have a guy bat second out of that on another team. But you're not going to have a guy batting third or fourth on playoff team from the 2023 San Francisco Giants. You're just not. They don't have really star hitters. They have good players. They're good like Wilmer Flores, Michael Conforto, J.D. Davis, Mike Yastrzemski. They've got good solid players on the team, but they're not star players, and they've just been able to perform well at the moment to be in that kind of position. They've also beat up on the Dodgers a few games, which has allowed them to gain on the Dodgers and kind of be in that playoff position. They have good pitching. Logan Webb is a guy coming into the year I considered for a Cy Young as a Cy Young candidate, and I think a lot of people kind of still do. Like his ERA is over 3, 7, and 6 this year. I don't think he's going to win it. Maybe by the end of the year, he kind of gets maybe top 10. He probably get top 10 votes, maybe top 5 if he finishes the season well. He's a good pitcher. I just don't think the Giants have enough. I think they're too old of a team, too inexperienced. When Brandon Crawford's one of your better players on a team, he's really just a defensive player. I don't know how good of a team you have. I kind of look at them as an older version of last year's Mariners. You've got a bunch of okay to good players where you can be in a spot potentially to make the playoffs. That doesn't make you a good team. And that's kind of how I feel about the Giants. If they make the playoffs, I think they would be feeling ecstatic because I don't think that they're a playoff team. I don't think they have enough pieces. I don't think they have good enough players. Their pitching's their strength, and I'm not entirely sure how great that is. I think they've got okay pitching. Um, but I think their lineup's what's going to hold them back. So my MVP, this video is going on a lot longer than I thought it would. So I'm going to go through my awards real quick. That currently in the National League MVP, I have Ronald Acuna Jr. as the favorite. I don't think I need to explain why. The guy's phenomenal. Home runs, stolen bases. The guy's on pace to have like 70 stolen bases this year, which he's benefiting from the new rules, but so is everyone else. And he's performing at an extremely high level. His Braves are in first place. I think he's the obvious MVP candidate. Some other guys in the potential are like Luis Ariz. Um, blanking on my other candidates. Really, the two front runners I see are Luis Ariz and Ronald Acuna Jr. Luis Ariz, if he bats 400, I would personally vote for him. I think the voters should still vote for Ronald Acuna Jr. But right now, I would have to say Ronald Acuna Jr. is the MVP for me. Cy Young, I've got Zach Gallen. The Cy Young is extremely open in the National League. I've got Zach Gallen with the Arizona Diamondbacks. He's like, I think he's 9-4. I think that's the record I saw. He was 9-4. ERA at like 2 point. Had it up for you. I'm just gonna pull that again. Yeah, he's 9-2. 2.84 ERA over 104 strikeouts. A pitcher that's maybe pitched better than him this year is Marcus Stroman. I don't know how well liked Marcus Stroman is by a lot of people, and he's kind of done it to himself, so I don't know if he's necessarily going to get the recognition he maybe deserves. He might still win it. I think Zach Gallen's kind of going to get some praise as the Diamondbacks make the playoffs for the first time in a few years and are performing at a high level. So he's my pick to win it. But you could argue anyone. You could argue Bryce Elder for the Braves can win it. Marcus Stroman for the Cubs can win it. Zach Wheeler could get back in. I know his ERA is kind of inflated after a start the other day where he gave up a bunch of runs. But it's a wide open race, and maybe Spencer Strider gets back in it, the guy that strikes everyone out. It's wide open. My rookie of the year, I got Corbin Carroll with the Diamondbacks. Another obvious pick. He's the leader. It looked for a moment the Mets might have kind of three rookies kind of competing, or at least in the mention for it, like in Francisco Alvarez, Brett Beatty, and Kodai Senga. Right now it's Corbin Carroll. He's a light years ahead of any other Rookie of the Year candidate. In fact, he's the other MVP. He's the MVP candidate. I couldn't think of it a while. He's the other MVP candidate. He maybe finishes third in MVP voting, maybe, but he will get MVP votes. He's been the star on this team. He's helped them be in a position to be in the playoffs, and I think they're going to make the playoffs. Obviously, he's a Rookie of the Year. He's going to win that in a landslide. Reliever of the year, I have Alexis Diaz with the Reds. His brother won it last year, phenomenal year, and I think he's taken it personally that his brother was better than him last year, and that his brother was injured this year. He's going to take that as inspiration. He's going to win it. He's performing very well, and I would say right now he probably is the front runner, especially as the Reds have been on a high success, and he's been part of that. He's reliever of the year for me. Comeback player of the year is Ronald Acuna Jr. I initially didn't think of him in this position, but like offensively, he didn't necessarily have a great year last year, and he's having a phenomenal year this year. Comeback Player of the Year is kind of a weird award in MLB. I think I mentioned this in my other video I did, where a lot of times it kind of gets given to like the most improved player. It's not always necessarily like the NFL where someone has a major injury and then the next year they win the award. It's not always like that in MLB. Sometimes it's a guy who's always been a 250 hitter, all of a sudden is batting 320 and he's comeback player of the year. Like, what did he come back from? He was always a bad player and now he's good. But in this case, Ronald Acuna Jr. He's been a star for several years now. He got injured a couple of years ago in the season the Braves won the World Series. I think he tore his ACL or he damaged his knee anyway. And last year he came back, had kind of a down year, and he's phenomenal this year. So I think that's more a deserving pick rather than just giving it to an improved player. MLB maybe should have a most improved player award. Manager of the year, Skip Schumacher with the Marlins, taking over I believe this is his first year as manager with the Marlins, and they're doing phenomenal. They're doing well. Part of that's Luis Ariz, but a lot of times, manager of the year's the manager on a team that's not made the playoffs in a while. He's gonna win it this year. He deserves to win it. General manager of the year, I got Kim Ning. I think that's how you say her name. She's the general manager of the Marlins. I guess the award's really executive of the year. I think she's going to win it for the getting Luis Ariz on the Marlins, getting them the playoffs. I think that's a phenomenal move, and yeah, I think she'll win executive of the year. The AL, in the East, currently I have the Rays winning the division. They're the best. They're arguably the best team in baseball. They just find ways to win games. They are what Moneyball, what the Oakland A's wanted to be. Uh, they found way to win. They found ways to win with no one, like picking guys up off the street and they win. Randy Rosarina, I remember this in the first video I did where I said he would kind of be like a dark horse candidate for MVP, and like there's no way anyone wins it over Shohei. No way. No way anyone wins it over Shohei. Try to make that rhyme. Didn't work out. Randy Rosarina has played well though for the Rays. He's probably I would say he would be their MVP candidate if not Yandy Diaz, who's been phenomenal as well. I picked him up in fantasy baseball. If you don't have it in fantasy baseball, you should pick him up. A really good player. But he might both those guys might get some MVP votes. The Rays are just a solid team all the way through. They got great pitching. They're the team to beat in the American League, I think. In the West, I have the Rangers. Um, the Rangers are kind of out of nowhere. Like I did not expect this, but they got Hall of Fame manager and Bruce Bochy leading them. They've had good pitching on their team. Their hitting has been phenomenal, like absolutely phenomenal. With guys like Adolis Garcia, like I think he is the resurrection of Nelson Cruz. Like he is the next incarnation of Nelson Cruz. Like Nelson Cruz was the Avatar, and then he passed his powers on to Adolis Garcia. Like I think that's what happened. That's what he seems to be. They just find ways to hit. I think they're a really good team. They're my 2 seed right now in the American League. And I think they actually are the overall 2 seed in the American League right now. They are leading the West currently over the Astros by a few games. The Central is whoever wins the American League Central, regardless of who I pick or who anyone picks, they're going to be the weakest playoff team in baseball this year. The AL Central is like the AFC South of MLB. Like it's bad. Like it is bad. Like the team that wins this division might be under 500. The Twins currently lead this division with a 500 record. I'm not joking. They have a 500 record and lead this division, and we are nearly halfway through the season. It's 162 games. 160. It's not like 16 games in the NFL or 17 games down in the NFL. It's not like in a crapshoot you could just end up like that. You have 162 games and you're at 500 leading a division. That's how bad that division is. It is insane how bad that division is. I have the Twins winning that division. I think with their pitching combined with some good players like Carlos Correa, if they can ever get Buxton to, I can't even remember his first name because that's how little he plays. If they can ever get Buxton to stay on the field and be a phenomenal player, they've got some other good players around them and got good pitching in Pablo Lopez. I think they're going to be the team that comes out of the Central, but who knows? My White Sox pick could end up being right. I think they're only like 6 games behind them, so the White Sox could, but they're a pretty bad team too. The wild card teams, I have the Orioles. They came out of nowhere. That was a big surprise to me this year. I think a lot of people kind of had them as like a fringe team, and they've been actually really good. They've contended for the East a lot of this year. Adley Rutschman, I think that I'm going to butcher that name for the rest of my life, is leading that team like star player. They've got ways to fill out that roster. Let me just pull up the roster. They have an all around good team. A lot of good hitters. They got some good pitching on that team. It's a nice young and exciting team to follow. and I've got them as a wild card team. Let me pull up their where are they? There they are. Let me pull up their roster, the players that they got. So I forgot. They got Adam Frazier, guy a few years ago was competing for the batting title in the National League, solid player. Um, Jorge Mateos, decent shortstop. Austin Hayes in left field. Aaron Hicks as a left fielder as well. Cedric Mullins, been an all-star caliber player the last few years. Anthony Santander. Adley Rutschman at catcher, the star player on that team. That Felix Bautista in the bullpen has been crazy. This is a good team. They're a good team, and over the next 10 years, they might be a team to contend for the AL East. If the AL East wasn't so tough a division, might pick the Orioles to win it a lot the next 10 years, but that is an insanely tough division. My wildcard 2 team, I have the Astros. They've really been hurt by a lot of injuries to their pitchers this year. Jose Altuve missing quite a bit of the season early on. Jose Abreu, who they signed in the offseason, has not been anywhere near what he has been previously. Alex Bregman continues to underperform since he was found out he was cheating. But they have some nice players. Yonder Alvarez. I keep wanting to call him Yonder Alonso, but that's another player that used to play in MLB. Yonder Alvarez is a phenomenal hitter. I think he's, how I said, Adolis Garcia is like the reincarnation of Nelson Cruz. I think Yonder Alvarez can very well be the reincarnation of David Ortiz in MLB. A guy who basically just plays DH, who's exciting to watch hit, performs well on a playoff contending team every year. He's an exciting player. He's been injured here recently, so that the Astros have kind of struggled offensively without him. But they've got good players in Jeremy Pena, who won the World Series MVP last year. They had, I'm going to mess up his name. Oh, how do you pronounce this guy's name? Dubon, Mauricio Dubon, he's kind of come out recently, kind of a middle infielder kind of guy. They have good players. I think they're going to be in contention. A lot of their pitching has been injured, and that's what's hurt them. But I think they're going to be buyers at the trade deadline, and they're just going to have enough to get into the playoffs as the wild card 2. Wild card 3, I have the Angels. This is kind of more of a dream pick for me because I just want to see Shohei and Mike Trout make the playoffs together. Because if they don't make the playoffs this year, Shohei's gone. He's gone. I hope my Mets get him. Going back to the Mets, I hope they get him. I don't think he's going to the Mets. I think he's probably going to like someplace like the Dodgers. But the Angels, I kind of like to see them make the playoffs this year, and they are in contention. They're only, I think, like a game out, so it's not unreasonable to pick them to make it. MVP running away is Shohei Ohtani. There's no, like I said earlier, there's no way Shohei ain't winning. That's he's the runaway candidate. Like he's a phenomenal pitcher and hitter. If you do not follow MLB, Shohei Ohtani should get you an MLB. He's a Japanese player. He's over 6 foot. The guy can hit like Babe Ruth and pitch like. I'm trying to think of a good comparison pitcher. Pitch like Justin Verlander. I don't know. Uh, is that a good pick? Kerry Wood, maybe that might be a better pick. Kerry Wood. He's a great all around. I'm doing horrible with the analogy. He's a great player all around. The guy can hit and pitch. He's doing things that haven't been done since Babe Ruth. Phenomenal guy. And he's a great guy too. Like you see him sign things for kids all the time. And he just makes baseball fun. Exciting guy. He won the World Baseball Classic with Japan this year. He is the star of baseball. He is the face of baseball right now. And there's no way this guy's not winning MVP unless he just gets a season-ending injury. My Cy Young candidate currently for the American, or Cy Young favorite, I should say. All of these are my current favorites. Cy Young favorite currently is Shane McClanahan. He's leading the American League with an 11-1 record. I think is what I saw a while ago. I believe it's 11-1. Yeah, 11-1 record. He's leading the American League in ERA, not only that, but Major League Baseball in ERA at 2.23. He has, I think, 100 strikeouts as well. the guy is phenomenal. All around pitcher. His Rays are going to be the #1 seed in the American League. He's who I'm picking to win the American League Cy Young. Rookie of the Year, as I said earlier, I hit this one right on this nail right on the head in my preseason pick. And Masataka Yoshida for the Boston Red Sox. He's going to be Rookie of the Year outfielder. I mean, the guy's like 28, so it's not a traditional rookie, but it's his first year in MLB. He's coming over from Japan. This guy's a phenomenal player. He's a star player in Japan, star player on Japan's national team in the World Baseball Classic. So I kind of saw this one coming. I'm kind of surprised more people didn't pick him, but I think there's just been so many good players come over from Japan that have not performed at a high level that people just didn't pick him. This video is running a lot longer than I thought it would, so I'm going to try and speed it up a bit. Reliever currently is Felix Bautista with the Orioles. The guy's phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. I think he's just got a few blown saves, and his ERA is like 1.18, over 20 saves. That guy's going to be the favorite for reliever of the year. He could even be a mix for Cy Young, maybe. But there's several good pitchers in the American League Cy Young race. So I like Nathan Eovaldi. So I don't see him winning Cy Young, but I think he's reliever of the year. Speaking of Nathan Eovaldi, I had him as the comeback player of the year currently. Like I said earlier, it's kind of treated like a most improved player. Like last year, he only pitched in like 20 games and went 6-3 with the Red Sox. I've got him winning comeback player of the year this year. I think he's on pace to pitch like 30 games this year, and he's like 9-3 at the moment with an ERA under 3. I would say he's in the Cy Young mix. I don't think he'll win it, but he's in the mix where I think right now he might finish top, at least if I voted, he would finish top 3 in my pick. So I have him as comeback player of the year. I think that's a good pick. I had his teammate Jacob deGrom winning it, and I should have picked him. He's having a phenomenal year. Manager of the year, I got Brandon Hyde with the Orioles. Just because they kind of came out of nowhere. Like, I think people had them on the fringe of the playoffs, but like not a lot of people were like, yeah, the Orioles are going to be good. I think a lot of people were like, the Orioles are going to be okay. Like, they're going to be good in the sense that they'll probably be above 500, but I don't think many people had them as a playoff team. They look like really good, and if it wasn't for the Rays and how good the Rays have been, the Orioles would be leading the American League East and perhaps have the 1 seed currently in the American League. So I think he's winning manager of the year this year, Brandon Hyde for the Orioles. My executive of the year in the American League, I've got Mike Elias, also for the Orioles. Just putting that phenomenal team together and getting them in position to be in the playoffs ahead of when everyone else thought they would and developing the talent on that team. I've got him as the executive of the year, and it's kind of interesting in both the National League and the American League. One team gets manager of the year and executive of the year. In the National League, I had the Marlins getting both. In the American League, I had the Orioles getting both. My current World Series pick, I was just thinking about it. I had it as the Rangers winning it. I don't know why I would do that. I don't know why. That's almost just like me being like, I would like to see them win it. But I don't think that's how I should pick on like what the favorites currently should be. The World Series pick, I have the Rays over the Braves. I think that would be perhaps a great World Series that a lot of people would like to see. The Rays back in the World Series, a team that's never won it, against the Braves, a very popular team and very good team right now. I think that'd be a fun World Series. I think that would perhaps go 7 games. I've got the Rays winning it though. Tell me what you think about my picks down below in the comments. If you agreed with them, let me know that you agreed. If you disagreed, let me know that too. Give the video a thumbs up. Share this video with other people, or just scream into the comments of how much of an idiot I am for any of these picks here. That's it. See you on the next video.